Well, thanks very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It really is good to be back at a face-to-face conference and to be so with so many friends and good colleagues in M4E. Thank you for asking me to do this. I've also known Linda, you, the M4E president, over many years and several posts, and Caroline and everyone in M4E, you've got a brilliant president. And congratulations, Linda, and I know you're going to bring great success to M4E. And of course, the small contribution that I and my fellow members make in the Stakeholder Advisory Council, very, very pleased to do it. Now, I'm asked to address you this afternoon on the latest developments in reporting. Some of you will have already switched off. The word reporting does have that impact on anyone. But if you see reporting as a necessary evil, you really have been in lockdown far longer than COVID. Information is the lifeblood of the new economy, with changes in both how companies operate and how financial markets work. Intangible assets are by far the largest part of the company's balance sheet and have to be managed with exactly the same rigour if today's company cares about how it creates value. There is also now compelling and incontrovertible evidence that companies who score highly on environmental, social and governance ESG also score better on financial performance too. That's mirrored in the growth of ESG investment, predicted to overtake conventional investment funds here in Europe within 3 years, and meaning that good ESG performance and reporting of that performance will be essential to access to capital and to do so at the best price. And we live in a new era of stakeholder capitalism, where all of the company's relationships are key to its reputation, its sales, and to its investment, and where the growth of social media, satellite technology, and big data approaches enable the comparison of data from diverse sources as never before. All of this means that the story about the company is already out there, and that the report is the company's opportunity to shape it. As I wrote last year, the business case for corporate responsibility is one. So this afternoon, I'm not going to spend more time telling you about the importance of sustainability reporting. You already know the truisms. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. What gets measured gets managed. We need to move from know to show. You've heard all of these before. They are truisms, but they are also true. Instead, this afternoon, let me not make the case for more and better sustainability reporting, but comment on the profound and fast-moving changes which are now taking place in how companies report their and our sustainability performance. The three key developments I want to comment on are, first, the moves towards standardisation of corporate sustainability reporting, second, the backlash against greenwashing, and third, how companies can and must work collectively given the urgency and nature of sustainability challenges. First, standardisation. For years, we've been complaining, and in my case, hearing the complaints about the so-called alphabet soup of different reporting frameworks. The fragmentation and overlaps have been seen as costly and burdensome for business. Now we have got what we asked for, a set of European ESG standards to be submitted to the European Commission as soon as next month and to apply along with the updated Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, the CSRD, the update of the directive you kindly talked about in relation to myself. And that will come in for some companies from 2024 with data beginning to be collected as soon as next year. The European standards are comprehensive, covering issues from climate change to workers in the value chain to principles for responsible business conduct. Indeed, the European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, which is charged in recommending the standards, is currently moving on to work on standards tailored to different sectors which go beyond the generic requirements for all companies. At the same time, as we heard from the GRI on the first panel, the International Sustainability Standards Board has been formed at the global level, has draft standards on general requirements for sustainability disclosure and on climate-related disclosures, both of which are due to be finalised by the first quarter of next year. Within business, and I suspect in this audience, there will be some hesitation from some people about the pace and scale of these developments. There's an obvious need for the maximum alignment between European and global proposals as much as possible. However, the EFRAG Sustainability Reporting Board, meeting in public, has been doing a good job in responding to the public comment and simplifying the draft proposals where required. And remember that the official European Commission impact assessment of the CSRD said ultimately that it will save companies money. There also does appear to be alignment between what the European Commission has undertaken on sustainability reporting and what it plans to do on due diligence. And I congratulate the position that Amphori has taken in relation to the due diligence directive. Meanwhile, although we heard about the Morning Star analysis of the public comment to the ISSB from the GRI, a staff paper on the public comment on the SSB proposals has shown that the vast majority of responses were positive. European and global standards setters are talking to each other too, both at a technical as well as at an organisational level. There is a huge amount of commonality. A study I wrote myself suggested that Europe's double materiality approach and the global approach of financial materiality only will actually increasingly converge in the years to come. So my message to this conference about standardisation is don't miss the wood for the trees. Yes, the detail is all important, but dating from the times only relatively recently, when I was driving the earlier efforts for voluntary sustainability reporting frameworks to converge towards the developments of today, the progress has been quite astonishing, and I would argue historic. The standards will make it much easier to understand the landscape. There will be authoritative reference points as companies address different sustainability issues. There is proportionate administrative supervision in terms of implementation, and what that really means is that companies genuinely making best efforts should not fear being penalised. But the link to mandation means that we are finally approaching the point where financial and sustainability information are treated on an equal footing by companies, by investors and by regulators. For Amphori's network of companies, this is an exciting moment to be involved, where many of our personal hopes and ambitions are being realised. And I invite you to engage in and implement these processes with genuine enthusiasm. Second, I want to address the so-called ESG backlash. Some of you will be following this more than others. It's the accusation that we're all prevalent to greenwashing. In America, at least, it's also part of a political backlash from those who resist the shift from shareholder to stakeholder capitalism, and where climate scepticism is sadly still part of their polarised politics. But when regulatory authorities make a dawn raid on Deutsche Bank's investment arm, DWS, to collect evidence for a potential mis-selling of green investments, and subsequently the CEO is forced to step down, then something is really happening. The real question in the fate of ESG investment funds in Russia at the time of the invasion of Ukraine, valued at some $8.3 billion US, is not that Russian action prevented withdrawal of these funds, but perhaps why they were there in the first place. So expect tougher scrutiny over your ESG claims in the years ahead. But personally, I don't see this as the beginning of a retreat or retrenchment from ESG. Agreement of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive was actually described in the official European Commission press release as the, quote, end of greenwashing. I think that may also be an exaggeration. But as many more companies have come within the scope of the regulation, with assurance as a key part of the next phase, the tighter definitions of what is genuinely sustainable which derive from the EU taxonomy, and the far greater accessibility to information through the forthcoming European Single Access Point due to be running from 2024, there will be little hiding place for companies who want to deliberately engage in greenwashing. And as we know, the best safeguard against greenwashing for the company remains to generate its sustainability information in a systematic and in a comparable way to which, as Amphori members, I know you are already committed. Indeed, the true lesson to us of those tragic events continuing today in Ukraine is that since the invasion, and it is similar to the worst periods of the COVID pandemic, while money has left traditional investment funds, it has continued to flow into the ESG funds, and their rise appears unchecked. So don't expect any retrenchment of ESG or of the importance of us in publicly providing sustainability information in the face of accusations of greenwash. The thirst for the information is unstoppable, and our priority must be in getting the information right. The panel which follows this speech will address the new era of data, so I'll limit my comment on that point. But I will say that systems of monitoring, reporting and verification, backed by safeguards against manipulation built into blockchain technology, mean that the data world is also rapidly transforming the potential for corporate sustainability information to be far more robust and reliable. But it's in that word transform that I want to address in the last part of this address. In sustainability efforts within the company, it's not just about going further and faster. It's about recognising that we need a step change, a transformation no less, with companies working together. The director of Proxima in the first panel, I thought, made the case for this collaboration really well. When I first became a member of Amphori's Stakeholder Advisory Council, I did some work with the Amphori people working on transparency and saw that there was a big demand from Amphori members to benchmark their sustainability performance against other companies, but still some reluctance to openly publish information in terms of the possible effect on competition. And I note the question from the representative from Lesotho in the first session on that. Perhaps it's an even bigger challenge if you look at it through global southern eyes. It is, of course, actually a sign of success that superior sustainability performance is seen as a source of comparative advantage. However, I hope the confidence of companies here towards making information public alongside and at the same time and in collaboration with other companies will further increase in the years ahead. Partly, it's my earlier point that the information about the company is already out there, and this is your chance to put your own stamp on it. But it's also a recognition that in combating climate change, social inequality, breaches of human rights, we are seeking system change. These are systematic problems, not caused by companies individually, but caused by us all and with us all. Companies, in response, have to work together and to work with other actors in society if we are to have a chance of reaching and realising our goals. Our economy is now one of networks and ecosystems, of complex value chains in which companies are inextricably interconnected. And rather than compete with companies on sustainability performance, We are in a new era where companies develop pre-competitive partnerships to address common challenges. There are many sectoral initiatives which give proof to this in technology, in fashion, in food sector and others. The challenges are the same, the risks are the same, and the solutions can be the same too. That means there is a great imperative to share information and to be transparent in sharing where the company is falling short in meeting its sustainability challenges. I want to suggest to you today that regulators, finance and the public understand and are willing to accept these shortfalls if there is honesty and transparency about how these are presented. Indeed, the last Edelman Trust Barometer, after the very low points of the past decade, now scores business as having higher trust in society than any of NGOs or governments or the media. This has been hard work in which the people and the companies represented in this room can attest, but I also hope rightly feel some sense of achievement. As the earlier panel on net zero touched upon, the real need is not for companies to measure themselves just against what they achieved last year or even against their competitors, but against the size of the collective challenge which we see before us. I fully embrace the sustainability context argument that the only point in engaging in any of the actions in which we're involved is to make a real difference to environmental and social thresholds for the world. That just as countries have nationally determined contributions from global goals, we can envisage a future where companies and investors have a clear idea of our determined contributions too. If we don't do this, however hard we work, the danger is that we all fail. So I invite companies present at this conference to be courageous about publishing the fullest information, to have the confidence to engage in this way with other companies in what are pre-competitive relationships, and to measure your efforts together against the size and scale of the goals to which we are all committed. When I saw that the title they gave to this speech was Caring is Sharing, I grimaced a bit, and I wondered how I would live up to that title. But this argument for working collectively to meet collective goals is the sharing to which I would point. So as we meet together, face to face, after a long gap, we're not simply repeating old arguments, although we do reiterate them. Today I've tried to give you an overview of fast-moving, astonishing, historic developments towards standardisation of sustainability reporting, which are fundamentally changing the landscape. I've argued that the greatest scrutiny of ESG claims should not lead to a retrenchment or a retreat, but instead represents the growing maturity and importance of our sustainability efforts. And I've described the new era of pre-competition in which companies trust each other with information to build societal trust in us all. The way Amphori brings companies together is, of course, a prime example of that cooperation. I am proud to work with the organisation, and it's been a genuine honour to speak to you at this conference. Thank you.